Hello and happy Wednesday. This is Coffee and Conversations with Jennifer, Simplicity Coach here. And before I talk about today's topic, I wanted to let you know that if you are a business owner, whether that be a service-based business, you sell things like makeup or essential oils or protein, whatever that might be. If you have a business idea, if you are a workout instructor, a yoga instructor, own a studio, whatever that might be, then next week I'm starting a live course, and it's really easy. It's going to be in a Facebook group. It's no charge, but it's all about business and some things that you can do now in this pause space, because we are given this gift of time right now. And while it's really easy to retreat, it's really important for business owners to rise during this and to use the time wisely. So if you are a business owner, if you have a business idea, there's something that you've been wanting to do, then I'll be sending out that information. You can send me a message if you want. Let me know that you're interested. But it's going to be a live course, and it's really easy. Going to be in a Facebook group. It's no charge, but I'm bringing my best coaching to it. So just wanted to let you know that. I'm also going to have a few workshops and webinars coming up. They'll just be one-off, focus more on simplifying at home, like meal planning, time planning, taking time for yourself, things like that. So if you don't have a business, but that sounds right up your alley, then that'll be coming soon as well. So today's Coffee and Conversation topic is about something that's really kind of interesting. So our addiction to chaos and our addiction to busyness is really a distraction tactic. It keeps us from paying attention to something, and it keeps us from, it distracts us from two things. One, what we want. So when we're constantly like in chaos or in a chaotic situation, something's always happening. Someone's always sick. The car broke down. You know those people, and that might have been you for a while, where it just seems to be this chaotic energy. That and busyness can keep us from things that we want. Starting a business, starting a family, getting a job that I want, or whatever that might be. Also keeps us from letting go or tending to something that we just keep brushing under the rug, and just keep sweeping it under the rug. It's just easier to put it under there, especially when we're constantly busy, or if stuff is constantly like emergency, rescue 911, I have to tend to this now. And really what that is an energetic pattern of ours, and it's we're matching that pattern. So you're just like, oh my god, it's all this stuff I gotta do, and it really keeps us distracted. But when it comes to this distraction, when we're not able to do that right now, which is really interesting, frustrating for some of us, but also really interesting. But I want to talk a little bit more about that. So there's this fear, like the distraction is around fear, like fear of if I tend to my health, or if I tend to this relationship that's not all that great. And it could be a friendship. It doesn't have to be like a partner relationship. If I tend to bad habits that I have, what does that mean? What's that going to look like? So there's some fear wrapped up in there. And then there's also massive fear wrapped up in us being distracted from doing the things that we want. So in this time specifically is what I'm going to call like the massive perspective shifter in this great pause, this home retreat. A lot of us are going to have a much different perspective on our own life and on life in general throughout this. When we come out of it on the other side, there's going to be a lot of job quitting or not. The fear of starting your own business might keep you from quitting a job, but there's just so much fear in there. So I want you to do, this is homework for today's Coffee and Conversation. So I want you to get a journal, make yourself some coffee, get really cozy on the couch with some blankets, or on a bed if that's a little bit more comfortable for you. And I want you to journal around one prompt and see what comes up. And don't judge it, just see what comes up. And the prompt is, I'm going to read it so I make sure I don't mess it up. One fear I have of getting what I want is blank, fill in the blank. So what is the fear around getting what you want? What is the fear around having the relationship that you want? Or what is the fear around dealing with your health, or kind of disengaging from a diagnosis that you feel really identified with? What is fear around money, around debt, around dealing with it? Is it because of what it means about you, or what you think that it means about you? What is the fear around, what is the one fear I have of getting what I want is fill in the blank, and then just see what comes up. And another tip on this fear notion is that the best way to move through fear is to do things that you're afraid of. Last year, when we were still able to travel, we took a trip to the West Coast. We flew to LA, we flew to Las Vegas. We rented a car. We drove from Las Vegas to San Diego, and then from San Diego to Phoenix, and then we flew home. That really wasn't like a scary trip, but the scary part for me was traveling through the desert to get from Vegas to San Diego. What if the cell phone signal didn't work? What if we broke down? What if we ran out of gas? All of those little things. But it was a really big trip for us in a lot of different ways, and it for sure raised us out of kind of this fear of traveling, which can help in other areas. But in November, we went to New York, and we stayed in Brooklyn. And we had sort of decided that we might not go into Manhattan. And for me, if I'm honest, it was just fear. I didn't want to go to Manhattan because that's a big city. Like, what am I going to do? Am I going to get swallowed up in this big city? How are we going to get around? How much are cabs? It felt too fearful. Well, we did it. We got on a boat in the ferry, and we went down to the tip of Wall Street, and we walked around, and it was just one of the most amazing experiences. We definitely missed the ferry back over to Brooklyn. It was about 10 o'clock at night. We walked down the entire East River to get back to the ferry station. We were in East Village, so it was a really long walk and a little scary. I've watched way too many crime shows and scary movies about people walking at night in a city and they get mugged. And anyways, I was walking really fast. I got blisters from walking as fast as we did, but we got to the ferry station and it was closed. So in the moment, I felt a little afraid, but we called an Uber. It was fine. He was the nicest guy ever. Lived in New York his whole life and got us back to Brooklyn in a jiffy. And so if you're finding yourself up against fear, then the best way to move through that is always to do things that just make you feel anxious, or that you're kind of naturally not comfortable with. And I want to say you're afraid of. This is a really simple example. I've noticed this before in friends of mine. So if I'm meeting someone at a networking group, at a party, at a get-together, and we drove separate, a lot of times, this is what I've noticed, the friend will text or call, they'll be in the car and say, hey, are you here? I just got here. Let me know and I'll walk in with you. It's like there's this anxiousness of going into the party solo and not knowing or seeing someone that you know right away. So go to a party solo, walk into it solo, go out to dinner solo, obviously not right now, travel solo, send someone an email or a card that makes you nervous otherwise. My wonderful, beautiful friend Lauren, we were talking about farmhouses, and she wants to live in a farmhouse, and she wants to live in a farmhouse in Dallas, North Carolina. And I said, you should look into Mr. Wilson's farm. And it's on the corner of the street that I basically lived down my whole life in our high school. So she knows the house really well. And she's like, oh my God, I love that house. I said, you should send him a letter. She's like, what would I say? That you like his house, and if he ever wanted to move, you'd be interested in buying it. I did that once. she was like, I just cannot believe that you sent him a letter saying that you were interested in his house. It's like, hey, what's the worst that could happen? He doesn't get back to me? He didn't. It's fine. The worst case happened. So when you are feeling anxious and uncomfortableness is kind of another feeling or emotion that's tied to fear, like a deep, deep, deep down fear. So do the thing that, just do things that you're afraid of. Do things that make you uncomfortable. Do things that make you anxious. And the more you do those, the less afraid, the less anxious, the less uncomfortable you are. You know, after we went on those 2 big trips last year, I'm not near as anxious about traveling specifically in the United States. Now, when you start talking about international travel, that I'm anxious about because I don't know. How am I going to be able to read the road signs? Am I going to be able to get around? Am I going to run out of money? Do I need to exchange money in advance? Those things that get in our head keep us from doing things in our lives. So our addiction to busyness and our addiction to chaos, when we're always finding things happening in our life that's just like, oh my God, why me? Why does this always happen? Because you're attracting it to yourself, because you're distracting yourself from something. So that is the coffee and conversation for today. And for Instagram folks, this is only live for 24 hours, but you can always catch the replay on Facebook. I leave it up on the Facebook page, and it's the same handle at the Jennifer Burnham. But again, if you're a business owner, if you have a business idea, and a business owner is very broad, I'm using this in a very broad way, then stay tuned for the live course that I'm teaching starting next week. And again, in a really simple Facebook group, no charge, but I'm going to be bringing my best coaching tips, all about keeping it simple, focusing on the foundations of the service, really designing that container. What do you do? Why do you do it? Who is it for? Paying attention to time. Right now we have an abundance of it, so we tend to be a little wasteful of it. While there's a difference between like super masculine, getting it all done, planning it all to a T, being very, very efficient, there's that one way of doing time, and then there's more of a feminine flow. And we can't be lazy. I'm not advocating for that, but we do need a little bit of structure with play. And then really looking at marketing, because now is not the time to pitch if you have a business, but now is the time to teach and educate. All right, well, I hope you have a beautiful Wednesday. Catch me back next Wednesday for another coffee and conversation. I'm going to be a different topic, and if you have questions or you want to just know more, then send me an email, send me a message. My email is jennifer@jenniferburnham.com. Bye, guys.